Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, September 10th. It is the 254th day of the year. There are 112 days left in the year 2024. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, God bless John Carroll. That was the ending to my presentation at the 60th anniversary of the integration of John Carroll Catholic High School in Birmingham. The celebration honored the four trailblazers who integrated John Carroll in 1964. Now, history will show that this integration experiment was different. The four students did not have to protest and march their way into the school. They were invited. The Catholic administration had decided 2 months after the signing of the Civil Rights Bill by President Lyndon B. Johnson that all the Catholic schools in the diocese of the state of Alabama were to be integrated. The four trailblazers entered the schools as juniors. They were welcomed by some and maybe not welcomed by all. Remember, the year was 1964. I was honored to speak at the event along with William Bell, the former mayor of Birmingham. A permanent marker is placed on the campus outside the entrance to the school. The marker includes the photos the students submitted with their initial applications way back in 1964. It was a true celebration with all the current students present and welcomed maybe 100 welcomed visitors. It was a special event. It was, and no matter what some people say, it is history. Our G-List guest today is Michael Waller, here to speak on the Melton Scholars program that he birthed at Auburn University as it heads into its second year. We look forward to having that conversation. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. So let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's go to our roundtable regulars, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker, and see what they've got going this morning. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Edwards. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Gossam. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. What's happening in your world?
Well, Tom, I want to start off with a story of something that happened down in your neck of the woods in Okaloosa County. There is a family of an Alabama man who's suing a surgeon who mistakenly removed his liver doing what was supposed to be a spleen removal surgery. This 70-year-old William Bryant and his wife Beverly, who are residents of Melton Scholars, Alabama, was actually at their rental property that they own in Okaloosa County. And Mr. Bryant certainly began to experience pain in his left flank. The couple went to the hospital there and was told, Mr. Bryant was admitted. It was told that he had to have surgery right away, even though the family wanted to fly him back to Muscle Shoals to have the surgery done. They was told that he had to have the surgery right away. They went to surgery. The surgeon removed his liver instead of his spleen, and of course he passed away. And this particular doctor, I understand, has performed several other surgeries where he's made mistakes. There was another lady who was talking about it on social media, saying that she went in to have a surgery done and he cut part of her intestines during the surgery. So I don't know how this man is still able to perform surgeries and practice there in Okaloosa County. You would think after several surgery errors, and especially some that causes death, that he would have, his license would have been revoked and he wouldn't be able to treat anyone. But even after this, I understand that he's still performing surgeries as of today.
Well, that's very unfortunate. He must have been a tourist, because everybody who lives down here know better to go to the hospital down here.
Okay. Yeah.
I generally go to UAB if I need to.
I noticed that you do. You come up to Birmingham normally for your procedure. So I guess it is something that's known by the residents there. And again, maybe the family was aware because again, they wanted to fly him back to Alabama surgery, but the doctors there in Florida told him that if he flew back, he wouldn't survive. He wouldn't make it back. So they decided, okay, we'll go ahead and have the surgery done here. But his wife saying that's the worst mistake they could have ever made.
That's
it really is.
So, okay, well, let's see what Michael's got. Michael Walker, you out there?
Yes, sir, TG. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
I'm doing well. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning, sir.
Barbara, I read that story, and, you know, I want to say that I think that, well, first of all, if he's had that many mishaps, I am surprised that he still have errors in emission insurance malpractice.
Exactly.
Why is he still being insured for that?
That's
if
a
he's
good
had
question.
that many mishaps. Okay.
That is a really good question.
And I also read somewhere in relation to that story is that another physician said that he would not have passed if he had tried to go to back to Alabama for surgery. And, you know, what you're saying right there, and I just got to be honest, and it leads into my main story. For the critics out there talking about DEI, that's some DEI right there for you.
Exactly.
Okay? Because you don't, in that situation where you have somebody's life in your hands and you're going in and removing a liver when you're supposed to remove a spleen.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. And they die.
They're on totally opposite sides of the body. I mean, how do you make that mistake? And surely there were other people in the with him that may have even tried to tell him he was doing the wrong thing, and or either were fearful to tell him because maybe he's, you know, lashed out at them before about, you know, saying something about his surgery. So it's hard to understand how something like that could have happened.
Yeah.
Let me say something about this whole DEI thing. That's not DEI. DEI was positive. You can't equate it with a negative. And that's what's been done today. You equate it with a negative and you say that's DEI. Well, then we're just playing into the stories that were put out by the people who were against DEI. DEI was not a negative, and it won't ever be a negative in my eyes. And so that's not DEI. That's an incompetent ass doctor.
Right.
So anyway,
it's what some people have turned DEI into, how they define DEI. You're right. It's not the true meaning of DEI, Tom.
So let's us stop doing it.
That's true.
That would help.
I agree with you, Tom, but from a cynic standpoint, with these critics going around and every time there's a person of color in a position, they want to say that's a DEI hire, whether or not they're competent or not. And either if they are competent, that's the first question that comes up, which takes me to the other situation where the critics always talk about merit. It should be done on merit. So then if you want to look at the opposite side of it and say merit should be the criteria, how is it that Peyton Thorne, the quarterback, you're going to tell me that he won that job on merit and that he stayed in there on merit?
We got to watch the film. We'll have to watch the film and see how he actually did.
But Michael, he's a good practice quarterback. I mean, it doesn't matter how he performs in the game. The coach says he's the best quarterback.
We got to watch the film. What else? The offensive line was bad. We didn't know the receiver didn't have a one arm. What else can we come up with?
I mean, come on. Where's the meritocracy in that? There's no merit. And you're going to tell me he's a better practice quarterback than the rest of the quarterbacks on.
That's what the head coach say.
Okay. All right. And it's hard to pull him out. Okay. When he's messing up. Even Brian Harsin pulled Bo Nix out when he was screwing up at Georgia State and put TJ Finley in.
Right.
Okay. But Hugh Freeze cannot do that. And, you know, there's an issue right there. And I think he's going to let his ship sink with Peyton Thorne because there's no excuses for some of those throws, you know.
Michael, were you actually at the game or did you watch it on TV?
I watched it on TV.
Okay.
I'm happy I did not go.
All right.
I'm happy I didn't waste time driving down there to see that display, you know. Um, and that's, it's so irritating that when it comes to certain people, we want to talk about merit, but then when we come to other people, merit doesn't play into it, and there's no merit in that.
You're absolutely correct. I would agree with you 100%. And there's a lot of people I think will agree with you. They're eating him alive on social media along with Coach Freeze for sticking with him. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this coming weekend. Again, the coach saying he has no plans right now. He don't know who he's going to start at quarterback because in his mind, Payton Thorne is the best quarterback during practice. And therefore, he just can't justify not starting him for the game. And I'm thinking, but if he's played 2 games already, and we know what he did last week, it was horrible. Horrible. Tom, I'm sorry. I was interrupting you.
I was going to ask, who are the other I don't know who the other quarterbacks.
Hank Brown is the backup quarterback.
And what is he? Is he a sophomore? What is he?
Redshirt freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then Holden Grenier is a holdover, no pun intended, from Gus Malzahn.
Wow.
And so he's third string quarterback. So let's see, I think he is now either a redshirt sophomore or redshirt junior, one or the other.
Right. I think you're right.
And then you have the freshman who was touted as being a phenom in the future. His name is Walker White.
Has he been redshirted? What's his status? Is he redshirted or planning to redshirt him?
He's a true freshman, but he hasn't been tagged with a redshirt yet. You cannot play more than 4 games. If you play more than 4 games, you lose your opportunity to redshirt. So he's on the practice squad right now. But he came in, and I think he was ranked as high as the number 7th quarterback in his class. Right. So top 10.
You don't have to have. It's like last year when he had Robbie Ashford and Bourne. You don't have to have a quarterback controversy to play 2 quarterbacks. That's right. Make it a controversy by the way you handle it. Mm-hmm. And I just in watching that game. To me, my experience in football, there was no reason to not remove that kid because he had to look like he actually wanted to come out.
Yeah, he looked scared. He really did.
He wasn't doing anything. And last year it was the receivers. This year it's the offensive line. There are excuses being made for the young man, and maybe he's had. I don't know. I didn't watch the A&M game. I don't know how that game went, but I know what I saw Saturday, and there were many instances where you could have put somebody else in to see if they were just going to get hot. Maybe you put a kid in and he gets hot, and he maybe wins the game for you, but that doesn't mean you have to start in the next game.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a controversy unless you make it a controversy. Anyway, that's.
I'm really wondering if it's all because of NIL. Maybe somebody has invested a lot of money and paid Payton Thorne a lot of money in NIL, and they want a return on their investment. But right now they get a negative return on their investment. So it's not helping if that's the case.
I'd be interested in knowing the NIL.
Yes.
We in Georgia had a shooting, you may have heard, in a northern suburb of Atlanta. A 14-year-old kid by the name of Colt Gray went into a school with an AR-15 style rifle platform and wounded 9 people, killed 4 people, 2 teachers and 2 students. Now, the interesting thing about this is that his mother tried to warn the school, and this kid had been on the radar of the FBI for over a year. And the sheriff in a neighboring county, they had gone out, spoken to the father and to the son regarding his posting. He's been on some website called Discord and talking about, shooting up the school. They went and interviewed him, and he said he hadn't been on Discord, and he wasn't involved in anything like that. The father said that he was making sure that he didn't have access to guns and what have you. And then that same Christmas, he turned around and bought him the very weapon he used in the shooting for Christmas.
Yeah, the
So,
same year.
yeah, who would buy their 14-year-old kid an AR style platform rifle for Christmas? And what's so ironic about one of the students that lost his life, he and his family had just moved from California to Georgia because they wanted a more peaceful life and they wanted to get away from crime. And they moved into the suburbs of Winder, which is, well, much further up, about 45 miles outside of Atlanta. And he ended up getting killed. I just do not get it. And that's what we've talked about before, about things being unilateral or being applied evenly. Do you think that if that had been another person of another ethnicity background, do you think they would have gotten away with that quickly? From the standpoint, if you're on the FBI radar, they'd be watching you all the time. And that's the issues that we have. Just same with the guy that tried to shoot Trump. You got a kid with shorts on and a rifle. How is he able to climb up on the wall and go undetected?
Yeah. And Michael, going back to the in Winder, I understand that the father has also been arrested and charged with those crimes as well, because he provided the gun to his son. So it's time that the parents be charged and be held accountable for their actions or inactions in this case. Giving the child a gun, not monitoring him, letting him have access to a gun, even after the FBI let him know that, that there's a possibility he's been involved in some type of social media postings related to the shootings. I understand he had closely monitored one of the previous shootings at another school that happened several years ago and was involved in that as well. So I just think the parents should be held accountable, and glad to know that his father has been charged.
Yeah, he may be sentenced up to 108 years in prison, and the son may be sentenced to life in prison with or without parole, is what they're talking about. They're due back in court in December.
Even if he was going to buy his kid a gun, maybe his kid's a hunter, and he's going to buy him a gun, you don't buy an AR-15, man.
No.
I mean, there's nothing, in my opinion, positive about. There's very little positive result that come from that.
Right.
So I think the father should be put in jail.
And and the impact that it has on the other kids at the school. I mean, this is something these kids, the trauma that they went through and still going through as a result of this. I have a niece, a great niece that's actually in high school. They're in Loganville, Georgia, which is not that far from Winder, and she was afraid to go to school the next day. She was like, something could happen to us. So it's affecting children who are not even right there in that particular school. And it's sad that.
Well, It's interesting that you put it in that context, because the event we had last week in Birmingham at John Carroll Middle High School was really, really a moving and beautiful event. And, all the current students were there.
Good. I wondered if they were there.
And about 100 guests showed up. And I just can't imagine those kids having to be afraid to go to school because somebody might shoot them. That's something we never had to deal with.
Right.
And, it's tough, man. I think the dad should go to jail, and the kid.
Right. And one of the other family members said that this child had been crying out for help. He has been going through some mental illness, had been asking for help, and both parents, the mother and the father, who were divorced or separated or something, basically just ignored it. And so, people just cannot let those things just erase it and think it's going to go away. It's not. If this child was having mental illness problems, and it should have been addressed. They should have gotten him some help.
Well, he was somewhat at a disadvantage, and what I mean by that, his mother has a history of having excessive drug abuse, being arrested for different types of drugs and what have you.
Right.
Yes, they're divorced. And the father, on the other hand, according to the maternal grandfather, all he did was yell and be abusive to the kids. And so, two of Colt's sisters, siblings, I should say, live with the mother, and Colt lived with the father. So, when you don't have two parents on the same page trying to raise kids, and both of them are wayward, both parents are wayward,
Mm-hmm.
it causes issues like that. Uh, I would be interested to hear what you guys think about happened to Tyreek Hill before the Miami Dolphins game, where he got arrested by the Miami police. They pulled him out of the car, put him on the pavement, and put his hands behind his back. I saw one officer put his knee on his back and stuff. And when Calais Campbell go up to try to talk to him, they put handcuffs on him too. So anybody that came up, and Calais Campbell said, look, I was just trying to diffuse the situation. I was trying to de-escalate and what have you.
What
So
was the
they're
reason
saying,
for the arrest, Michael? That's one thing I haven't heard. Why did they even stop him?
supposedly they stopped him, they're saying, for reckless driving. So I guess that's going at a speed limit that's over. Normally they give you 10 miles over the speed limit.
Right.
So I guess he was going even more
Above
than that. Yes.
Give him a ticket and let him go. I mean, what? I don't understand why they pulled him out of the car.
Is this in Miami?
Yes, it was in Miami. He was on his way to the game.
Yes.
Going to work. And so they pulled him out of the car, and when they stopped him, he got on the phone calling his agent, Drew Ray. I think it's Drew Rosenhaus, and the officer asked for his license stuff. He let the window down, gave him his license and stuff, and he let his window back up. So the officer got mad, started hitting on the window, said, "Put that window down," and stuff like that. So, and he put it down, and finally, and this is tape that I saw that was released by the police. And the tape, he said, "Put the window down. I'm just going to arrest you. Get out of the car." Open the door and drug him, and another cop come up, and they just physically pulled him out of the car onto the pavement. And, they let him go after a while, but supposedly it was because of reckless driving.
Again, I didn't see the official video from the police. I saw just a everyday person had posted a video. I guess they were recorded as well from like across the street. And so I couldn't hear what was being said, but I did see them pull him out of the car and handcuff him and all of that. And really, looked like they were roughing him up a little bit. And I understand at least one of the policemen has been placed on administrative duty. I mean, he's not even been suspended or whatever. So I don't know what that means.
Well, that
means he
gets paid.
Yeah, he's still getting paid. Yeah,
he gets paid while he's on administrative leave. That's what that means.
Well, he's not even on leave. I understand he's on administrative duty. He's like on, like in an office, not on patrolling anymore, but he's actually just in an office now.
Yeah. And, Tariq said, he says, "I really don't know what the reason was." He said, "But what if I had not been Tariq Hill? What would have happened?"
Exactly. It's a sad day.
All right. You guys got anything else?
I just want to mention one other thing, Tom. There's been a food safety issue with boar's head meats. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it has caused at least 57 hospitalizations and 9 deaths in 18 states. Boar's head meat is, I know Publix Deli uses it, and they're sold probably a lot of different places, but please be careful. I have a friend who eats a Publix Deli sandwich, I think almost every day for lunch. And they're saying they're gonna pull back now because of the problem with the boar's head meat. And
what's the problem with it?
it's causing listeria. And they're saying there's like a 2-month incubation period. So you may have eaten it and you might not have any symptoms for at least 2 months. And but it's causing serious illnesses and again, in some instances, death. So the lawyer that was handling the case in one state said that he feels like there's probably going to be a lot more cases to come about because with that incubation period before symptoms show up, that there's probably going to be a lot more people getting sick from this.
For you guys, so who gets the blame, Boar's Head or the Publix?
Boar's Head.
No, it's Boar's Head. It's from a factory in Virginia, and it causes, as Barbara said, listeria. But it was primarily the liverwurst was the product that people were getting sick on. And when they went in, and supposedly this is another situation in which inspectors had been there several times and had cited them for uncleanliness, and there's supposed to have been mold and stuff growing there. A lot of different issues there.
Yeah, the CDC's investigation meat sliced at deli counters, including Boar's Head brand liverwurst, but it's other types of deli meats as well, was contaminated with listeria and made people sick.
People will hear about it and won't go.
Yeah. Yeah, the states, list of states that have been that affected by the outbreak so far is New York, Maryland, New Jersey, Virginia, Massachusetts, Florida, Missouri, Georgia, South Carolina, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Pennsylvania, North Indiana, Arizona, New Mexico, and Tennessee.
Wow. Yeah, something needs to be done right away.
Absolutely.
Okay, you guys got anything else? Okay, let's go to Sean. She's got a minute, and then we'll get to our G list.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Tomorrow is 9/11, a day where terrorists hijacked 4 jets and flew them into the towers of the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the last plane was forced down by flight attendants and passengers. These attacks claimed the lives of almost 3,000 people. Massive explosions showered burning debris over surrounding buildings and the streets below. America was under attack. Tomorrow, the National Memorial and Museum in New York will host its annual commemoration ceremony to observe the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks by providing 6 moments of silence, acknowledging when each of the World Trade Centers was struck and fell, and the times corresponding to the attack on the Pentagon and the crash of the United Airlines Flight 93. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
All right, our G-list guest today is Michael Waller. Michael Waller has been a guest on the show today, but he is the administrator. Maybe that's the right term. Michael, you can correct me when you come on if it isn't. Of the Melton Scholars. And Melton Scholars, he'll tell us all about it. But last year when Michael came on, he told us one of the things that gave him the push to come up with this program was that he lived overseas for many years. And he says we were often the only ones who looked like us, who spoke our language, and when we walked into the room. And for many underrepresented students, they have a similar feeling when they come to Auburn. Auburn is clearly committed to maintaining a rich, diverse student body that affects our citizenry and keeps our graduates relevant and valuable to employees. So all these things came together in a way that led us to focus on supporting diversity in education. Let's welcome Michael Waller this morning. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Barbara and Michael. It's great to see you all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing this morning?
I couldn't be better, Tom. Thank you very much.
Good deal. Well, let's talk about the Melton Scholars. And I don't know how much history we need to go into because hopefully a lot of these people were on earlier when you talked about the first group. But tell us, just give us a brief synopsis of the Melton Scholars and what's happening going into this second year.
We'll do, Tom. First of all, if I were to be an administrator of this program, that'd be a promotion for me. The administrators, Paige, Wetzel, and others are certainly in your chart here. So I'm just a foot soldier in this. But
you're modest, but we'll let you get away with it. Go ahead.
I think it's appropriate, Tom, to talk about this program in the context of Auburn's overall strategy when it comes to students. Dr. Roberts says, rightly in my view, that what we want to deliver as a university is the top best student experience in the country, and we do that by making all students feel welcomed, valued, respected, and engaged. And when I think about those four words, welcomed and valued are attributes that I believe that the university puts its foot forward first. You have to, they have to create an environment where students are welcomed and valued for who they are. And then those second two attributes, respect and engagement, are attributes that students more or less take the first step. In other words, respect is something that you earn. Engagement is something that you are proactive at doing. And when you think about those values and attributes, you can see where the Melton Scholars program aligns with and advances those attributes. So let's look at the first year cohort one, we call them, and where they stand today. In that first cohort of 10 students, we had 6 men, 4 women. One of the men was Japanese American. I think, Tom, you were his mentor,
yes.
In fact, and still are. One of the women was from India, South Asian Indian, and then the rest were Black students from all over the state of Alabama. Many of them were majoring in engineering and science and math. We had one student from the College of Liberal Arts. And Michael, you mentioned something earlier in your comments about performance and about merit. And I'm proud to say that this group of 10 students finished their first year collectively with an grade point average of just around 3.5. In those disciplines, which, as you know, are some of the most challenging that we have here at Auburn. They all had a variety of different summer experiences. Many of them worked in some of the bridge programs and academic boot camps that we conduct for incoming students here at Auburn. Some of them have already been slated for leadership positions in organizations which they have become engaged in on their own effort, and we will be gathering with that group of students as well as the group of new students who were just selected yesterday. It's very timely that I'm on this program this morning, and they'll have a role in mentoring these first year students. So these are students with a year in their rearview mirror. They have a lot that they've learned. And I'll say to the 4 of you that these students carry themselves differently than they did when they walked onto this campus for the first time. They enter rooms with a bit more ease, with a feeling that they belong, and with some confidence that they didn't otherwise have. One of the features of the Melton Scholars program that we'll see for the first time this year is in the second year of the program, the cohort together makes a domestic trip. to some place in the United States to have a shared experience in something that will enhance their overall Auburn education. And this year, the students will be traveling together to Detroit, where they will meet with senior executives from General Motors, where they'll meet with executives from other businesses throughout the city. They'll have what I call kind of a mini internship sort of experiences, some exposure and career path conversations, dinners with executives, to sort of see what it's like to interview in those sort of circumstances. We have a number of, as you know, there are a number of museums, Underground Railroad type and other types of museums there in Detroit that will be visited during the group. I intend to fly up there and be with them for a couple of days just to see the experience through their eyes. And it's just one of many features that we build into this program to make it rich for our students. So I'm very excited about this sophomore year for our initial class. They're trailblazers, many of them, and I couldn't be more proud of what they've accomplished as students. And the student experience is front and center in this program, and it always will be.
I think one of the things that makes a big difference in this program is, you come to a big university like Auburn, and maybe your first generation. So that probably puts you behind a lot of other students, just in terms of culture and so on and so forth. And I remember when those kids came last year, and then I think it was maybe, I do that class either in fall and the spring. I forget, maybe it was in the spring, but they had matured so much. They had grown so much. They were in this class, and they were fall freshmen. They were in this class with juniors and seniors and so on and so forth. And they basically took over the class. I mean, they answered all the questions. You'd ask a question, and they'd raise their hand because they wanted to be heard.
Yeah.
And it was just wonderful to watch that growth in them. And that's what I think this program is about, is not just money, not just saying, hey, you're all, but the growth that they're exposed to. And this thing in Detroit will be wonderful for them. So,
well, Tom, you emphasized something that I think is worth underscoring here, and that is this sense of community. You may remember, Tom, and for Michael and Barbara's benefit and the members of the audience, we gathered these scholars together at the end of the year, last April, and said, what did we do right and what did we do wrong, and how did this program impact you throughout this year? And this program is not a rich program, but it's not a poor one either. I mean, each student gets $10,000 per year for 4 years, so $40,000 per student in every class. So each of those 10 students got up and said something about the course of their year, and not a single student, not one, said anything about the money. Every one of them said that what mattered for them was the creation and vibrancy and richness of this community that they belong to. And it's not only important for Black students coming to Auburn. Obviously, just look at the numbers. There are not as many of them as there are, students of other demographics. And so having a place to belong and having walking with people in their similar experience matters, but it matters for any category like this. I'll give you an example. Harvard Business School 2 or 3 years ago made a push to hire military veterans to come into their school. And the military veterans were not making it. They were having real trouble. And so they formed a little community of military veterans, and they focused within that community on places where they were getting stuck. And lo and behold, working inside that community with people with shared interest and shared experiences, a different demographic, but same kind of forces at play here. They elevated their performance in a way that gave them an opportunity to bring their experience as military officers into the classroom with a lot more confidence and context. So it's an approach that can be applied in a number of different contexts with extraordinarily impactful results.
Good deal. Let me, before I go to Michael and Barbara, Michael Waller, November 7th, I'll be doing that class again this year. I do it in the fall and the spring. So November 7th, they want to put that date down, and I'll see if we can invite some students again this year. Of course, it'll be different students from the Auburn community. So it should be good. So Barbara, you got a question for Michael?
I do. I want to start with a comment, though. I want to thank you, Michael, for establishing this Melton Scholars program, and Tom for your involvement as well. There's some really prominent Auburn alums that are involved in this, and I appreciate the work that you all have done. I had an opportunity to meet several of the Melton Scholars last year, first at an event where there were a room full of Auburn alums there. I think maybe 300-400 alums and supporters were in that room, and one of the Melton Scholars spoke, and he was phenomenal. And then again, months later, I went back for Black Alumni Weekend and had a chance to engage with several of the Melton Scholars during that event. And they just stood out. Like you said, that group of students, even though they were freshmen, you could tell they just walked with so much confidence and spoke with so much confidence, and everyone was so impressed with them. But my one question is, if there's a viewer on who has a student who's planning to come to Auburn and possibly interested in getting their child in the Melton Scholars program, is there an interview process or application process? How are they how the students selected?
That's a very good question, Barbara. The selection process for the scholars grows out of a number of recruitment programs that are conducted by multiple offices. So programs like Tiger Takeoff, academic bridge programs, summer boot camps for some schools. They run those. There's a number of different recruitment efforts that are led by enrollment or student affairs or different colleges. And so we start from there. The Melton Scholars, first of all, have to be accepted to Auburn. So this is a post-acceptance process. Right. And so what the university administration does is it looks at the pool of those students who have come through Auburn in some of those recruitment programs, and they identify those that may be from underserved geographies or have a number of attributes in their background that point to scholastic success in their respective environments. First generation is a factor, those sorts of things. And they pull out a pool of about 40 or 50 or so students, and then a cross section of administrators from multiple functions inside the group interview those students, and then make a recommendation to the scholarship office about those who they think are sort of at the top of their game here, based on those factors that I identified for you there, and then large scholarship office where financial need comes into play. They're the people with that kind of expertise, and so out of that process we come up with the 10 in each class. And so what I would say to students who are junior, senior in high school, be involved in one of these summer programs, enroll in Tiger Takeoff, take advantage of the bridge programs, come to Auburn, see what it's like. They'll automatically be in the pool of people that are accepted and that are evaluated for this program. And that's the way to do it. It's the engagement piece of the Auburn strategy relative to the students. Start getting engaged early.
Very good. Thank you.
think also we should give credit to the people. I'm on the board. You say you're not the administrator, but you're the head guy. But let me just say that Taffy Clayton and Paige, what's Paige's last name?
Paige Wetzel.
Paige Wetzel. They are the day-to-day people who work with these students, who guide the students, who will be with them in Detroit. And they have done a great job. And I want to make sure that we recognize them.
You can hear Paige, by the way. She is the ESPN commentator for women's volleyball at Auburn.
Oh, okay. I knew that name sounded familiar.
If you're a volleyball fan, that's for sure. And I will report to you, Tom, and Michael and Barbara. The DEI department at Auburn has been eliminated effective August the 15th. But Taffy is well positioned in the provost's office. Paige is her assistant there. We have a number of resources in student affairs and other places around the campus. And a little bit to my surprise, but really very pleased to see that the Melton Scholars program is a named program that has inserted into the job description of some of our administrators at Auburn in sort of Senate Bill 129 world. I think it communicates the value that the university puts on programs like this. It has survived that and is flourishing. Our second class was just selected yesterday. And so we're enthusiastic about what this can do and grateful for the university's support for it.
Yeah. Michael Walker.
Well, good morning, Michael. Thank you for
morning.
being with us. And first of all, let me just say happy anniversary to you and your wife. And we appreciate you taking time out to be with us this morning in light of celebrating the anniversary.
Thank you, Michael. Betsy thanks you too. Thank you.
Fantastic. You kind of hit on a little bit of what I wanted to ask you as far as the long-term goals and plans for the Melton Scholar recipients. You talked about them going to Detroit and they're going to meet business people there, and you coined it, I think, as a mini internship. My question was going to center around when these students get an opportunity to meet graduation, will they be able to, or is it some type of design that when they go on these trips that they get to make these relationships where they could get an internship and possibly get employment after graduating from Auburn? Is there any connecting the dots like that?
In fact, there is, Michael. This year, we have instituted a process that Jay James, I think his name is, who is one of the leaders in the Black Young Alumni Association at Auburn, is heading up a feature of this program that connects Black executives that are Auburn alumni to the Melton Scholars, so that Melton Scholars who are interested in particular professions or fields of study, starting in their sophomore year, will be able to connect through a platform that we've developed along with one of our other supporters in this program, be able to connect with people in industries so that they can start that process in their sophomore year. So we're not going to wait till they graduate to help them. We're going to start getting them connected early on. And it's a way for us to involve organizations like the Young Black Alumni Association invest in these students, and for a way for those students to explore different pathways for the use of their degrees. Who knows? They may, through this exposure, decide, I might not want to do that. I might want to do something else. And so it exposes them, and we're being very intentional about using technology and our young graduates that have better insights into career paths than just the general public to connect these students that way. So I really appreciate your highlighting that for us, because it's a new feature of the program that we just have institutionalized this year. So yes, so short answer to your question is yes, more robust even than you might imagine. And in the third year, these students will be taking an international trip, and they have to earn points in terms of their engagement and work to be able to go on this trip. But we're in the planning stages for it already, and so very, very excited about that. I don't know, Tom, if you want, I can talk a little bit about the second cohort, where we're headed with this program. Our second cohort was finalized yesterday. We have, like the first cohort, we have 10 students, 6 men, 4 women. Of the 6 men, we have 1 white male, 1 Hispanic male. The rest, the other 8 are Black students from all different parts of the state of Alabama. An interesting sort of twist is that 2 of our female scholars are identical twins, and one of them is a professional cellist. And so, I mean, diversity, richness, merit, call it what you want. It's going to be a very interesting class. And you and your audience may be wondering, look, this is 10 students a year. Are you really going to move the needle here? A lot of people ask me that question. And what I'll say is this: our aim is to have at maturity 4 classes of 10 students in each class, and kind of on a separate track over here, we are organizing a capital raising campaign that is aiming towards an endowment of $10 to $12 million that will enable us to sustain the program at that level in perpetuity. And you'll hear more about that in the coming days and weeks. And what I believe this program does is it enables a sophomore or a junior student, wherever they are in Alabama, if they're not a star on the gridiron or on the hardwood, to be able to see themselves in an average everyday student at Auburn and say that, that could be me. And not all those students are going to get a Melton Scholarship, but we don't have a recruitment of Black student problem at Auburn. We have an enrollment problem. and we have a lot of folks who've been accepted, but for whatever reason decide to go somewhere else. And, Tom, like you, I just like to win. And so whenever we go into every county in the state of Alabama and we accept students and say, we want you to come to Auburn, I want those students to have Auburn at 1, 2, or 3 on their list. And if this program gets the right kind of exposure, and I believe it will, we'll have more people who can see themselves in this kind of environment and feel more welcome. It's still going to be an inclusive program, 10 students per year. But the footprint of those 40 students, when you talk about their families and their friends and their co-students and then all of the stuff that we pour into these 40 students at maturity, will spread out and impact and affect how everybody feels about Auburn that they touch, and that's a much bigger community. So that's the strategy behind this, and I mean, we're early. We'll see if it works, but I'm optimistic.
I think it's going to work. It's going to work well. Just I mentioned earlier this event we had last week at John Carroll High School up in Birmingham. There were 4 kids who were selected from the Black Catholic school to go to the White Catholic high school, and but their integration was somewhat limited couldn't play sports. The two women couldn't be cheerleaders. They couldn't be in class together. So it was an integration experience, but it was probably painful in a lot of ways. And that's one of the reasons that they had this event, because one of the guys had been bugging them about having something to recognize the those young people who came in 1964. I think in Auburn being, 30,000 students or more, how can you find your way through that? And to have internships that not just are meaningful in terms of jobs, but also that are meaningful in terms of resources. Because I was offered an internship at the newspaper in Columbus, Georgia, one summer, but I didn't have any money to go live in Georgia. How was I going to get there every day? I didn't have a car, so there were just a lot of obstacles to making that happen. And I think these kids today have a better opportunity to get to do things such as that, and particularly in Melton Scholars.
That's right. I'm speaking to the students in the College of Liberal Arts on Thursday of this week, and they're all interested in going to Washington, D.C. And I'm together with Jeff Moore, another stellar Auburn alumni who's just about to be installed as the head of the Auburn Alumni Association. We're going to talk about Washington, D.C. And one of the things I'm going to tell them is most of the employers in Washington, D.C. still think they can hire interns and not pay them a living wage. So you better put some money in your pocket when you go up there.
That's where they hired me. Well, tell Jeff congratulations. Jeff was trying to get on the board. He asked me to write a letter for him, and I did. So
it must have worked.
He's done. Good deal. Barbara, Michael, you got any other questions?
One other question I wanted to ask, Michael. Are the Melton Scholar recipients limited just to the state of Alabama, or is that just your primary focus?
It's our primary focus, Michael. We have not had anybody outside the state thus far, but it's not a requirement that they be in the state. But obviously, I started this by saying our interests are aligned with the university's interest, and it's why this program goes. And clearly, as a land grant university, we have a primary interest of serving the citizens of the state of Alabama. 62% now of our student body is from the state. And so clearly there's going to be a focus, but we don't want that to discourage people from outside the state applying for it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from anybody? Michael, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you coming on with us again and keeping us up to date. And I guess I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Tom. Thank you all for having us, and for you and your audience here. There'll be a lot more about this program coming out over the months, and we need all the help we can get. And so, thank you for your interest.
All right, thank you, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Right. So my closing comment for today, or as I see it, I read something really disgusting a couple of days ago on Facebook. It was a very nasty, demeaning post about Vice President Kamala Harris. It was posted by a woman I went to high school with. And I mean, it was nasty. It was demeaning. And I can't repeat any of those words, but I couldn't understand why this woman, who would tell you that she's a friend of mine, if you asked her, could lower herself to such a level. Be who you are for. I've said that before. And my question, I wondered, knowing her from high school and knowing her after high school, what happened to her? She should be for whoever she's for, but you don't have to denigrate someone because you support someone else. And remember, denigration is a boomerang. It always comes back at you. And this one, in my opinion, has come back at her. So finally, James Earl Jones, the great actor and the voice of CNN, passed on Monday. I got to work with James Earl for about 3 days in Birmingham a few years ago. It was great. We had a great time. We became friends, and so God bless James Earl Jones. And I want to say congratulations to Michael Waller and to Betsy for their anniversary, and I hope you guys have a good time. Michael, I hope I didn't get you in trouble by taking you away. Anyway, and that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank our G-List guest, Michael Waller. Thank our sponsor. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, and Michael and Joyce. And that's it for this September the 10th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you've got an extra one, give one to someone else today. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.